Of course, in recent days we've seen the sudden surge of spring after the coldest first half to April on record, and the coldest April in fact on record, the second coldest in the satellite era. We have seen temperatures going into the 50s, the 60s and the 70s within a matter of days, which is not overly uncommon when you do break away from a winter pattern late on in the season. You tend to get a pretty sudden rush in temperature. But that temperature has crashed once again. We did see frosty conditions across many parts of the northern plains. The very areas that were in the 60s and 70s just a couple of days ago, back into the cooler air once again. And, we are going to see more cool conditions pushing in to this region of the country, I think, before we really do finally break away from cold weather altogether. System over the right along the North Carolina and Virginia border at the moment, bringing some fairly unsettled, messy conditions here. Of course, we've got a plume of moisture coming in off the warm Atlantic, crossing over the Gulf Stream as well, so we need to watch out for some potential flood and rainfall in New England, for example. That system clears out, and eventually the system that's over the Central Plains, that then pushes in and replaces this feature. So a fairly messy picture somewhat. You can see here the development of low pressure becoming more established over the very area, in fact, that is getting hit now, and that system will lift out. Then we've got a trough coming in from Canada, and yes, we do have some snow as well as rain coming in. That trough actually is a fairly big deal, by the way, once we get through the weekend and into early next week. You can see here moisture rotating around the trough as it deepens, digs south. We are going to see some rain, backside snowfall, northerly winds, feeling more like March rather than late April into, this is going to be the early hours of Sunday morning, the 29th of April. Probably feel more like, the middle portion of March when this northerly wind kicks in, and it will feel cold for the time of the year. That system clears out, high pressure replaces low pressure, settling things down over the eastern half of the country overall. And once we get that system dropping to the south, then we're going to start to pull in our air from Texas, from even Mexico. So we replace the cool with the warm back once again, and it's going to be a back and forth, a bit of a tug of war, I think, really overall. Systems coming across, tapping warm, moist air from the Gulf. We need to watch out for severe weather, tornado potential here as well, and also, of course, snow over the Central Rockies overall. So continuing to be an up and down weather pattern as we leave April, begin the month of May. Big questions are going to be, do we have a warm May like the CFSV2 is saying, or is there a potential for something a little bit cooler than what the models are seeing? There's a few things, including the Southern Oscillation Index, which is negative, and that tends to correlate to cooler weather during the latter half of spring, and even sometimes into the early portion of the summer. So a lot of things to look at, a lot of things to keep tuned here on markvaughanweather.com and on YouTube, and I'll keep you up to date as best I can. But summer isn't quite here just yet. Bye for now.